Hey, what's up guys, Lightning here, and today I've got my 5.4.7 Windwalker guide where I'm going to be going through my talents, my glyphs, etc. Alright, let's start with talents. For the first tier you've got these three. You've got Tiger's Lust, Momentum, Celerity. The other two just like do stuff to your roll, like make it quicker, give it more charges, but the reason Tiger's Lust is the only real talent here is because it will get rid of movement impairing effects and increase your speed. So you can get out of things like Frost Nova, and that's just too strong. The others don't even compare. For the next tier, you got Chi Wave, Zen Sphere, and Chi Burst. You want to be taking Chi Wave most of the time because it does like double the damage of the other two and has half the cooldown. It's just better in every single way. Chi Burst might be better if you're playing with a Hunter. You can get some decent bursts with it, but it doesn't have as much like sustained damage over time as Chi Wave. For the for the level 45 talents, you've got only two ones that are useful. You've got Ascension, you've got Chi Brew. Ascension was good up until like 5.3 when Chibru got buffed. At the moment, Chibru is the only viable talent because look, it like instantly gives me like 7 stacks just by using both of them, so that allows you to burst much earlier. Okay, for the next talents, you've got Leg Sweep, this, and Ring of Peace. Almost all the time you want to be using Leg Sweep. The only time I use Ring of Peace is if I'm facing RMP or RMD in 3s, and that's Rogue Mage Healer. That's the only time I use Ring of Peace. For the next talent tree, it depends. If you're facing melees, you want to be using healing elixirs, and if you're facing casters, you want to be using diffuse magic. If you're facing something like mage warrior, you want to be taking healing elixirs. The only time you take diffuse magic is if it's like a double spellcaster, like mage warlock or something, or if it's just like mage priest in 2s, then you want to take that. But any other time you want to take healing elixirs. And the last one, you want to be taking rushing jade wind pretty much all the time, because what you do is you pop this on your burst and it will give you, like, this thing actually ticks for quite a lot. It will tick for like, it can crit for like 15k like every 0.5 seconds. It's crazy the damage this thing does. And the Tiger you can use maybe if you're like playing double DPS at low rating. Like if you're capping as like Warrior Windwalker at like 1400 MMR, then the Tiger would be useful because you could just pop it and not worry about it and it'll just do like a bunch of damage. But other than that, you want to be taking Rushing Jade Wind. Alright, now onto the glyphs. These are the two mandatory glyphs. You need to take Glyph of Touch and Glyph of Touch of Death. And the reason for this is because without Glyph of Touch of Karma, your touch is going to have like a melee range, and that's pretty much useless. Like, you need to have that range on touch. Like this hunter right now, I could touch him from there. With the glyph, I'd have to be this close to him to use Karma on him. So yeah, you definitely need this glyph. And Glyph of Touch of Death you want to need because you don't want to be stuck with your target at 10% health and you can't use Touch of Death, because it is your execute, and when your target hits 10%, like, they have to die. Like, you can't not be having 3 chi when you need to use this. It's just, and the increased cooldowns are relevant because you only need to use it once per game. And then onto the third glyph slot. The third glyph slot is the most interesting because you actually get to change it. In most situations, you want to be using this one, Glyph of Sparring. This is going to give you more survivability, because when you've got your sparring up, which is your passive parry thing, you're going to be deflecting more spells. So that's when you want to be using that. The reason why you want to be using Glyph of Paralysis is if you're playing with like a warlock. Like, most of the time I'm playing Monk Warlock, Monk DK, Monk Shadow Priest, things like that. So you want to be using Glyph of Paralysis so your paralysis doesn't break so it breaks the dots when it actually puts it on, so it actually doesn't break. You'd be using Glyph of Sparring if you're playing with a hunter. And then we've got Glyph of Nimble Brew, which you can use in like some situations if Glyph of Sparring isn't useful, because if you're facing like Mage Priest, a mage isn't going to proc your sparring, so you're not going to get any benefit from this. So you want to be using Glyph of Nimble Brew, so at least that does something. You'll get like a small heal when you trinket. And yeah, all the other glyphs are pretty much useless. Alright, now onto my gear. The stat priority for Windwalkers is you want to have 3% hit, which you can't really not have 3% hit, because like even in like full pride, if you when full prideful, I've checked on the PTR, like even if you reforge every single piece of hit off your gear, you'll still have like 4%, 5% hit. So that's not going to be an issue. And then expertise, you're going to want around 6 to 6.5% expertise. Pretty much just reforge all your expertise off and you'll have around this amount, which is good. And then you want to have agility. Agility is better than everything, as you can see. And then for the secondary stats, you want to go crit is greater than haste, which is greater than mastery. And the reason for this is because crit's gonna make your stuff, or it's gonna make it obviously crit, and monk burst is like monk damage is like very bursty in general. Like your sustained damage is not really that high. Like yeah, it's not like a warrior sustained damage, but when you pop stacks, you like have like the massive burst, and if you get a Rising Sun Kick crit, that can be like a difference between a win or a loss. And then the reason you want haste is because at the moment monks are running with Ascender, Chibu and Rushing Jade Wind, which is really bad for energy regeneration. So if you see like this shit costs like 40 mana, 40 energy, sorry, and yeah, your energy is going to be depleted fast. So you want to have as much haste so you can keep up as much pressure as possible. And Mastery, what Mastery does is it will give it a chance when you get a stack to get like a double stack. But the reason you don't want this is because um, it doesn't really make that much of a difference, and you're getting a lot of stacks anyway. And plus, getting more haste means you can use more abilities, which means you get more stacks, like indirectly, if you see what I mean from that. Alright, now onto the reforging. Actually, no, not the reforging, we're going to do gems first. Okay, gems in the head, you're going to want this Tyrannical Primal Diamond, because it's better than the Meta Gem. And in every red socket, you want to be using the Delicate Primordial Ruby. In the yellow sockets, you want to be using the Deadly Vermilion Onyx, which gives you agility and crit. And let me find a blue one, there we go. And the blue one, you want to be using agility and PvP power. So this means you're basically optimizing your stats and you're getting all these socket bonuses, which is just free stats, which we always want that. And now enchants. On your shoulders, you want the Crane enchant. I've got the Inscription one, because I'm an Inscription. On your back, you want a 180 critical strike. On your chest, you want 80 stats. On your braces, you want 80 agility. On your weapons, you're going to want Dancing Steel and the PvP 2200 offhand if you have it. If you don't have 2200 in threes, then you want to get the Weapon Chain. That's what I used before I was 2200. Because, yeah, you don't want to get disarmed. Anyway, gloves, you want to have 170 haste. Legs, you want to have the Shadow Leather, it's hard to say. Yeah, you want that. And in your feet, you're going to want the, I think it's called Blurred Speed. Not quite sure. It gives you agility and a speed increase. Yep. And that's pretty much it. Okay, now I'm going to quickly go through my rotations. I get asked this question a lot. And I don't really like this question because basically in PvP, you're not going to really have a rotation. Like, everything is going to be situational. Like you always want to be using Rising Sun Kick, but if you wanna swap to another target to burst them, you don't want to use your Rising Sun Kick before you burst because you want to have that get off when you burst. Plus, it gives like a 20% debuff. So what I might do is, if I'm thinking of swapping onto the Druid, I'll run over to the Druid, use Rising Sun Kick on him, hit the other target for a while, and then when Rising Sun Kick's off cooldown, I'm gonna paralyze the Druid, and then go for my burst on him. Because then I'm going to get the 20% increased damage on my Rising Sun Kick. So you're going to have to do stuff like that if you want your maximum burst. But in general, like this is really, really general for the rotation. Like if you just want to do damage and you don't really care about anything else, you want to be using Rising Sun Kick, you want to be keeping up the debuff from Tiger Palm, and then you're going to be using Jab and Spam Blackout Kick. You want to use Chi Wave on cooldown, and you want to keep using your Chibus. So Rising Sun Kick, and then just jab, blackout kick, jab, blackout kick, jab, blackout kick, etc. And if you get a proc from your thing, then you want to use that. So you use Chi Wave again because it's up. And people ask me when you want to use Fist of Fury in your DPS rotation, and to that I say that you don't use it in your DPS rotation unless you don't really care about the stun. Like if you want to stun the target, you use stun. Like you don't use it for damage. But if you really want to know, the reason when you use Fist of Fury in the DPS rotation is you need to have the Tiger Power debuff up, you need to have Rising Sun Kick on cooldown for greater than 6 seconds, and then you need to have your energy not capped by the end when you finish your Fist of Fury. There you go. That was a good Fist of Fury. Because if your energy caps while you're using Fist of Fury, then you lose damage, because your normal attacks do more than Fist of Fury. You use Fist of Fury just so you can do something while your energy regenerates, and while your Rising Sun Kick isn't on cooldown. Alright, macros. I'm going to go through these briefly. Okay, this is my first macro, which just does Energizing Brew, and on control it does Chi Brew, so you can see it right here. If I get control, it changes to Chi Brew. It's not really necessary, it's just because I didn't want to have another button for it. And this is my disarm macro, which does Tiger Palm normally, and with control down it will disarm my focus right there. And then I have focus paralysis, which I don't use in arenas. I only use this if I'm like in fives mainly is when I use this, or like battlegrounds or whatever. And then I've got my hamstring, which is gonna cancel spinning crane kick if you're not playing Thrusting Jade Wind, because you know you don't want to be spinning when you want to do damage because it makes you slow. Okay, jab. Okay, this just does jab, and on control and ult it's gonna Tiger's Lust my healer on control, and when it's ult it's gonna Tiger's Lust on the other target of arena. And that's Mistweaver. There's my focus kick macro. We're gonna kick a focus with control down and do it normally without. This is my paralyze macro and paralyze 2 macro. What these do is the same thing basically, except for they're on 2 different buttons, as you can see here. I could technically take this one out right here and put it here so it looks simpler to see. But what this is gonna do is, this is a very long macro, you might not understand, but what this is going to do is going to obviously show the tooltip. It's going to cancel the Storm Earth and Fire so it doesn't break stuff. It's going to cancel bop. If you are playing with a paladin, you want to get rid of that bop, you can spam this. Okay, and then what it's going to do is, with no mod, like you're not clicking anything, you just click the button, it's going to paralyze arena target 1, which is the person at the top. And then with the mod of control, it's going to paralyze arena target 3, which is the one at the bottom, and then this one is going to paralyze arena target 2, which is the one in the middle. And this one's just shifts. Like this one, it's 9 control 9 and shift 9. They're just on 2 separate buttons. I don't know why, it just is. Don't worry about that. That's just my burst macro. I use Tiger's Eye Brew, and it will use the trinket. This is an important macro actually. Because if you're playing with a priest and he's using the thing where or like even if you're not playing with a priest, if you happen to be in like a situation where you have the buff from the body and soul, which the priest when the priest uses powered shield on you, you'll get this buff which makes you run quicker. That will make you not be able to use your Tiger's Lust. So if you get rooted and a priest uses shield on you, you're going to be stuck in that route because you won't be able to use Tiger's Lust. So this is just going to cancel that, and so you can use your Tiger's Lust. That's a focus Storm Earth and Fire. This is just a macro that uses my Fortifying Brew, and it uses the Health Stone at the same time, so I don't have to worry about using Health Stones automatically. And that is my Focus Touch macro, which is going to do Expert Harm normally, and with control up, it's going to do Touch of Karma on my focus. The reason why this is useful is because if you're facing something like Mage Priest, and you can't use touch on a mage because he's gonna block it, and like you don't want to be panicking trying to find a target because you'll die. Like I can't tell you how many times I've died because I've been like panicking trying to find something to touch that isn't a mage or a druid with ice block or something. So yeah, you want to have this definitely, so you can maybe like focus the mage pet or something. Like if you touch anything, you cannot touch the mage or else he'll block, and preferably not the pet either, because mages can dismiss their pet and it'll get rid of the touch. Alright. So there you go, my 5.4.7 PvP guide. Now again, if you want to see a written version of that, I have my like written version on the forums. The link will be in the description below if you want to see it in writing, or you want to look at my armory just to copy that. So yeah, hope this helps, and this has been Lightning. Thank you for watching.